to this computer. Okay, so calling us to order at 6:01. Today, Rauscher Farm Management Subcommittee meeting of September 10th, 2025. And we will begin with a roll call of those present. We do have a quorum of 4. So I'll start. Gloria Parkinson here.
Dean Briggs here.
Dave Notaro here.
Webster here.
Okay, so roll call and off we go. So as I say, there's we have the agenda. I did send an updated discussion document, which was just to bring you up to date on certain things that have happened or are in progress since our last meeting to be discussed by us now. So off I go. If I appear to be going too fast, slow me down. All right. So on the agenda, we have the adaptive land management. Oh, first of all, minutes. Yes, I apologize. I could not finish the minutes to get them out to you in time for this meeting. Thank my periodontist. And the pain that was then inflicted upon me today. So I will finish them off and circulate them, and then we will review them at our next meeting together with tonight's meeting minutes as well. So we move on from that. I do not see anyone hovering for public comment. Nope. So, all right, adaptive land management, trails and equipment updates, everybody. Jim, Dean, Dave?
I've not done any mowing in quite a while, so last I knew everything was fine, unless anybody knows otherwise.
I didn't see anything in the log, and the equipment was, is in stock, and nothing is out for repair from what I could see. So
We're in agreement then.
Okay. Nothing. Ray. Problems. Okay, so we will move on. Now, let us now, with that land management and mowing, etc., let's talk about Sam Bell. You'll see in the discussion document that for personal reasons, Sam is not available for this particular October conservation mow. All right.
He has said he sincerely hopes to be back next year and doesn't want to lose us.
So with that in mind, if I can find someone just temporarily, fine. It's tricky. It took a long time finding Sam at a reasonable price. You recall we had a whole search going for months and months and months. So let's assume that we do not find someone in the next month at a reasonable price that fits within what the town has given us for the budget for this year, and also that knowing that we're basically also holding the job open for Sam. I'm asking you guys to think of how much is reasonable for volunteers to do. You did do it in the past, which is when we said, no, this is too much, because we don't have the big equipment. But given that we might have to do some of it, although at the same time, I'd like to say that way back when I was exploring all this years and years ago and went to Mass Audubon and looked at a number of different approaches. 1, the annual mow; 2, the 2-year mow; 3, the 3-year mow. So just looked at that. So theoretically, we can hold off a massive annual mow for 1 year. However, what I'm suggesting is if you mowing brigade can think of some places that we could manage on our own, thinking about invasive species, like, for example, the top part of the grasslands. So, but I throw that out there now for you to think about it. We could finalize it at our October meeting, right, which would be the second Wednesday in October, which would be when this conservation mow would start at that point on. Does this make sense to everyone? So that there could be some planning ahead before the October meeting of what might be reasonable to do, what would basically bring everyone to their knees. And if we could do some, I say we, you, because I don't push the brush cutter. What might we do just for this year? What might we prioritize? So I'm throwing that out to you now because there's not everyone, because we're a short group meeting today. And also, it would be a good thing to do to have a strategy that we could then discuss and then decide finally at the next meeting. Does this approach make sense to you, folks?
To me, it does. And I have to say, in the past, when we were mowing it for a couple of years by ourselves, I did end up with a very wonky knee that I think was largely because of all that heavy mowing. So selective mowing, I'd say let's target especially like areas of woody growth as opposed to just plain old grassland plants. But TBD, we can think about it and discuss next time.
It's too bad Alan's not here. Alan and Ray have done a lot of frequent mowing this year, according to the logbook. I've done some. I'm willing to commit to doing that hillside across from Dave's, which I've done in the past. That's very tricky because it's so steep and it's potentially dangerous. And I've done it enough that I kind of know what the pitfalls are. So I'm willing to commit to doing that. I've also done the dry parts of the wet meadow. I've been tending to be working the west side for whatever reason in recent years, and I know them better. I'd be willing to do the dry parts of the wet meadow. Also, I've noticed that there are a number of trees, invasive trees that have sprung up behind the farmhouse. I've mowed those in the past. That was pretty brutal with the mower. I think what I would commit to doing is taking those out with the thinning saw and then having them just mulched with the decks. But I could take I've had my eye on those trees and have been concerned about them. I took them out a couple of years ago and they're back, so I can take them out again.
Oh,
I would say you are now our resident expert on those parts of the farm. So go and be well. Go have at it, right? My opinion.
Well,
We don't.
Hello, was that Dave? No.
Oh, it was
Yeah.
me. I was just going to. Is
I
that
think
you, Dave?
Sorry, that's my GPS talking to me.
Oh, okay. It's not a real person. Okay, fine.
How much less of the
No,
grassland
I
do we
just
have to
silenced
mow?
it, sorry.
How
Okay,
much
sorry.
less of the grassland do we have to mow as a function of the encroaching wetness?
That's a good question, and I would have felt we could discuss this more. You'll see in the discussion document, the Conservation Commission did not manage to meet,
Right.
right? And that was on our agenda for them for that meeting. So we're going to have to, I mean, what we're trying to do simply say is, will the Conservation trust our judgment in how much we are going to say, here's the wetland line, here's the mowing line, And then at that point, but we
It's
still,
it's
yes,
not that hard to determine. I mean,
it,
we
it
can.
isn't. It isn't, but we have to officially have them say we can do that because
I
they are the
understand,
wetland people.
but given we don't have the wherewithal to mow it all. Everything that Sam Bell would have mowed last year with no more permission than we've always given him, right? We should be able to mow any of those areas that we've let Sam Bell mow in the past. And I demarcated around that wetland, around the grassland with wetland markers, areas not to mow, even not because it's necessarily wetland, but because it's where there's loose strife. We want to make sure we don't mow that and spread it. So
Right.
and the other thing is, if we stay mostly looking, unless we have a lot more time available, people willing to mow, if we look especially for areas where you have woody shrubby growth that's coming up, new shrubby growth that's coming up, like I know in that northwest meadows up the top of the hill across from Dave's, way up the top. There's one patch that's always wanted to grow in with little shrubby things just as you come into that field that we should mow down if we can.
Okay.
But the rest of that field, if it doesn't get done this year, no big loss, you know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
Same with
think
DPF.
mm, sorry, I think I wasn't clear with something I just said. When I said running stuff by the conservation, I was actually referring to the placement of a grassland trail in the grassland area that will be moved up out of what is now
Mhm.
transitioned into wetland. So that's really what I apologize, I was not clear a moment ago.
Mhm.
So what I would suggest, again, come back to the next month's meeting, a map, right, with circles on it, what we think is doable. So, like, for example, what Dean has said he would commit to. Um, and also, if anyone else, if people like Alan and we can run it by Ray, if we look at that map, even if Ray is not present, we can say to Ray, would you be willing to do X? Right? So we actually have a plan, we have it marked on a map, which means individually people can do that in their own time. Does that seem like a good idea to mark the map?
Seems like overkill to me because any of us out there can sort of choose. We all know where Sam Bell mows. We also know the areas that we mow ourselves that Sam doesn't mow. So those of us who are regulars, we all know it gets mowed every year. Within those areas, we're obviously not going to be able to mow the whole thing ourselves unless somebody wants to do something really heroic, which I'm not going to do again after wrecking my knee a couple of years ago. I'll still do some. But within those areas, we can pick areas that are mostly on the high ground or areas where we're growing in with a lot of woody plants. Like there's a lot of areas that do tend to grow in with bittersweet and whatever. But we can't do it all. We can just choose our battles. I mean, I don't know what else to say.
Again,
I,
I think I didn't express myself clearly enough when I meant have a map. Is just to say, what do we think we will do? That, well, like Dean has just said, I will commit to doing opposite Dave's, the hillside opposite Dave's and behind the farmhouse. If we just could talk next month about what the commitments will be, that's really what I'm talking about. Not
I think it'd be
just,
good to raise them up just so people like who are maybe not here this month, like Alan and Ray, could know how we're thinking about this and what needs to be done, just to have a general sense of this conversation. For example, that upland field across, and sorry, I'm forgetting the name, across from the shed there, that falling
mhm.
down shed. Might be something we could leave. As I recall, by the way, I just wanted to get this into the record. You probably all remember the last time we mowed it and we kept track of how long it took us to mow it. It was 40 hours of labor to mow
Okay.
the whole thing. So as somebody said, kind of a heroic effort.
It was a heroic effort, which is why we decided we couldn't keep it up. Jim's knee was it did Jim's knee in, and everybody else's knees were going to follow soon thereafter.
When
So
we did it last time, I'd usually go out for like 2.5 hours at a time, several days a week. And I can't commit to that kind of load anymore because I ended up in physical therapy. Maybe not because of that, but I certainly after that ended up with a very wonky
and
knee.
that's what we're trying to avoid for everybody, right? So everybody takes on a small chunk. It won't be the whole thing. It's just things that we think are high prize in terms of invasive species. That's really all I'm trying to deal, and then we can also then say to people who are not here, you know, is there anything you hear you can commit to? If you can't commit, that's fine, but then we would know. That's all
Gloria,
it's
one thought might be that you put it in a brief email, just separate from all of the documentation, everything. Just put in an email to the folks. Um, we're talking about mowing. As you know, we've got this problem. Be thinking about what parts you would want to commit to mow this fall, so we know how much of it we can get
right.
done. We know we don't think we can get the whole thing done, but be thinking about it.
Okay, that's a good idea.
And Ray in
Okay?
the
Yeah.
past has usually worked on the hillside pasture. That's something that Sam Bell doesn't mow because it's way too hilly and rocky for a tractor. but that's typically something that Ray would normally take on. I don't know if he wants to do it this
Yes.
year or not.
So,
Is
so
that
what,
the one that's across from the
Uh, I'm
driveway
sorry.
and up
I'm
above the
sorry.
shed?
My mistake. I didn't mean the hillside pasture. I meant the pasture behind the farmhouse,
Oh, okay.
which Ray has normally taken on to do much or most of that every year.
I I make a
okay.
motion that we pull up the hose this year before we mow that.
Yes.
That's a casual motion. It's not an official.
No, yes, we did slice through it, didn't we?
We
Yes.
did a fine job last year.
Yes, yes, so okay, that's a good idea. So I will send around an email based on just this one item, all right, to see.
And I'm going to stop suggesting because I know that Dave has to run at 6:50 and I don't want to burn any more time.
Okay, so
Can
we
I
have it.
can I
Yep. Go,
can I
Jim.
quickly get right now while we're all here before Dave goes, since the three of us own chainsaws, uh, equally important with the mowing, we have a couple of downed trees we have to attend to. And I'd like to know when, you, Dean, and Dave might be available with saws. So we need at least two of us with saws. And again, I can come with my saw, but I'd rather have two other people with the saws and I'll do dragging. If I have to cut, I will, but I'm thinking of myself as the ready reserve. And if we can pick a date that works right now, any day next week is good for me, depending on weather, but we can exchange by emails what looks good. But um, so, and then if we can see if Alan or somebody's available to help drag stuff, but
You said
um,
next week. So the week of a Monday, that would be Monday, the week of Monday the 15th.
I have to get my calendar again. I had it a minute ago. It's
Yes,
the week of
if
the
you're talking.
15th, correct. And right now I have, my calendar is jumping all over. Right now I am wide open every day that week, as far as I know so far.
I have I only have the morning of Wednesday the 17th. It's a chemo week.
Okay. We also could do the following week for me too. I don't know how that works for everybody else.
Just make sure you communicate what days you're thinking, guys, via email or text. Only because I can't look at my calendar right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I'll
I've
send a
got more
message.
availability that week.
I'll send a message saying availability anytime the week of the 15th or the 22nd is good for me as of now.
So let us send but the given Dean and out. So why don't you send that email, Jim,
Yeah.
to Dean, Dave, Alan, your availability for those 2 weeks, and then let other people fill in.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. So yeah. So moving on. Um, I will just on the agenda. I don't know where the Woodlands #2 came in. I think that was just a typo on my part. I have no idea what small thought, if any, was going through my head there. So ignore that. Um, the okay, the electricity in the barn. Um, we've been tabling that because there was no. It was very unsure when there would be a town administrator. We've now learned that the current town administrator will in fact remain until June of 2026. So with that in mind, I was suggesting that we go back to the point we tabled that, which was to talk to National Grid about what it would cost to take electricity to the barn. So we're sort of stepping back to that. Your thoughts, in other words, the only other option we've had is, take it from the farmhouse and dig a tunnel, I mean, a channel, whatever you call it, across the lawn and across the road and across in. And we had talked about, let's look at the other option, because we never got a firm quote from that, other than a vague verbal one, and in which case we would need to get more quotes. But as a comparison costing, we had talked about having the National Grid give us a cost, which would be to put the electricity on the pole where all the other electricity is that then serves the farmhouse, right? So in other words, across on the side of the road right next to the farmhouse and next to the barn. And that's where we'd left it. Shall we pick it up there and just find out what National Grid would cost for that?
That sounds
Then
good.
we'd have to go back to the town for the other option.
So we'd have our own drop and meter then on the barn coming off of the transformer.
Yes,
Great.
well, it may well be, I don't know how they bill it. There is an account for 29 Clamshell Road, which is the farmhouse.
Yeah, I
So
guess we don't have to figure out the technical details. But yeah, I would say go ahead and do that. Especially if you're thinking, I think that ties to your later item, Gloria, about having more programming take place in the barn.
that's why it's there. Yes, yes. And this is becoming extremely important, I would suggest, because of what we are witnessing, particularly in June, July, and August. It has been so hot these last few months, through years, that it has been impossible to do one-off events. In your own time are fine. People can do that in their own time. And you'll also see, but if we can go into the barn, there is shelter. So, for example, a Rob Gear program can go in next summer into the barn and then down to the pollinator nursery garden. He's done it before. Rather than going to the library where it would simply be a slideshow. He can do the slideshow in the barn, as we did. We did it with a geology one too, rocks on Rauscher Farm. Do you remember that some time ago? And we were going to do the woodlands, the introduction of the woodland, the updated woodland plan, the forest stewardship plan in the barn. So yes, as we look at climate, the barn, is a viable option. People would come and we would have people always, bring your folding chair, like the beach.
We're also going to be buying more electric equipment over time, I imagine, as more of the of the equipment becomes electrified and is practical. So we're going to need to have that resource in the barn
And light. We
and
talked
light.
about light being a safety issue. Okay, so it's time to pick up this project again, is what I'm saying. Yeah, see where we go. Okay, all right. Everybody in agreement over that one, right? Okay.
Yes.
Haven't yeah, pick up. National Grid. Okay. Have not had time to follow up on historical research, etc. Moving right on to the pollinator garden. Okay. So this has been stunning watering campaign, and so the water buffaloes, who I will term affectionately Alan, Jim, and me, have the plants have thrived, and so they're doing well, and also we've been able to document the appreciation of the pollinators on the plants, because when we're down there, we're busy taking photographs, right? I did include in the discussion document, this is a link to what Jim found about our friend, the thistle, Scottish national anthem, the thistle. All right. If you haven't
Careful,
had time,
Gloria. Careful, Gloria. You're getting into deep water here. Watch what you say.
I know. So if you haven't had the time to look at that link, it's pretty humorous. The link is someone who asks to identify what looks like an alien plant climbing up their fence, which is subsequently described by our friends, the thistles, right? So again, and it just describes how invasive they are. This is just, we've seen them sprouting up. We are going to have to manage the thistles. They are they're great when they're close, right, to the fencing, because then you've got that crossover between the outside and the inside. But when they start marching all the way across, we're going to have to keep cutting them
I
back.
could I can say from experience, I know Alan and I has done, I don't know if you have, Dean, or not, but have uprooted some of the ones that were actually growing inside our pollinator meadow, and the ones that are growing right up on the outside of the fence. It'd be nice to uproot them too, because they just keep moving in. But
I
they are
was going
difficult to
to.
uproot.
I was going to,
You-
but the bees love them.
They
They were
do.
covered couple of weeks ago. They were covered with bees.
No, and I agree. Right now, all the bees are, have them, but the ones right back along the fence, if we can get to do them over the fall before they, come back again, and all
Yeah.
the other ones that are out there, the ones we can keep mowing them down or whatever, and they'll keep coming back. But the ones right along the fence, if we don't uproot them, they will just keep marching right through the fence and taking over the meadow again. And
I
they are
wonder
very
if
So
we
hard to
could.
uproot.
I wonder
We
if
have a
we could
lot.
trim off the all but the last foot of them and then use the weed wrench to pull them because they're
Well, that's
nasty to handle.
Yeah, I
they
understand.
are.
We need at least, that's what we've done in the past. We've used the weed wrench with a 2x4 for like a fulcrum behind it. And you have to pull it up very carefully and slowly so it doesn't shred, because there's a taproot that's like a great big carrot. And so you have to sort of tap down, try to get low enough to get onto something that you can basically get a pretty good grip on with that wrench. And then very, very gently rock it back to pull it out.
Are you concerned about the pokeweed at the end of the garden that's outside? That's that thing that's leaning over the fence at the end of the at the short end of the
Yeah, I looked that up. I've been also trying to, and I'm sure that Jim has been doing it too. And now I'm trying to identify things because there's things that I'm seeing there that I didn't know what they were. So I've been busily
Alan says
doing
it's pokeweed.
hmm? Pokeweed, right?
Alan says it's pokeweed.
Okay, so I've been trying to check if they're native or non-native. That's the immediate judgment upon them. And I honestly can't remember now without going and looking at it. I think it's native, isn't it?
Again,
I
whether
believe
it is
so.
or isn't, we just don't want stuff that can march through the fence into the garden, so we just
Yeah.
need to sort of keep a reasonable perimeter so stuff doesn't come through.
It doesn't seem to be doing that though, does it? That one. It seems to be just there. But again, like what Jim is saying, anything that gets too happy and decides to attempt to move in, we do have to
It's
disabuse
native.
it of its notion.
It's native.
It's native, the Pope.
As
Okay.
in as in poke
Um,
salad Annie, right?
right. But it doesn't seem to be doing, it's not trying to do what the thistles is like a bit like, the Day of the
They're
Trippids, the horror movie, right?
very aggressive, yes.
Very aggressive. So that's what we have to keep our eye on. Right. That and also the stinging nettles, because they're not fun. All
I
right. So
learned the
that's
hard way. Yes.
just a general note about, what's happening around the plants, because the plants are doing very well. Now, you'll also see, to keep on moving here, I got a message today from Giancarla Kalpas. This is the one of the two that did the winter sow in the library. And she's offering me a prairie willow and 4 to 5 pussy willow plants that she has grown from cuttings. And we've immediately said yes, because we've ordered these and we can't get them, right? Well, the prairie
Can I,
willow
can,
we can't get.
and can I say for the record of all the willows, and they are the first thing out in the spring, so we really want them to have some first of spring, plants out there for the bees when they come out of hibernation, the native bees. But the prairie willow is the one that's most likely to like drier ground, like where our garden is. The pussy willows like wetter ground, at least from all of the stuff that I've read, and they may or may not like being in the garden, but if so, we can still take them and just plant them down towards the wetter area outside the garden and put the prairie willow inside, which is we've already designated a spot for it.
We do have to have a conversation about sex. I know this is being recorded, but the pussy willow, all of the willows need male and female.
And I
Okay.
know when Alan and I went down a year ago last fall to Blue Stem Natives, which is one of the place that theoretically has prairie willow. We've been on the waiting list for 2 years and it never arrives. And we talked to the great woman who runs it. I can't remember her name now. We had a long chat with her, and she has all different kinds of willows, but no prairie willow. And she says she did have some that she's trying to start at her house, but she says the only way she can tell from the males from the females is in the spring when the catkins first come out, those little pussy willow fur balls. And without those, she can't tell after the fact either. So it's like, um, you know, it's like blind man's bluff. I mean, who knows?
So, so we get them and we see what happens, right? Do do we have a gaggle of girls or do we have a partial boys football team? We don't know.
And if the others turn up, if any others turn up, we'll take, something else and hope we get lucky.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
To your
But it was
question about weed barrier installation on the 21st of September, I
uh,
put it on the calendar. I don't know if I can make it, but I put it on the calendar. If I can, I'll come.
thank you. Thank you. Scheduling has been very hard for everyone. We know that. We're just now, and the other thing about that which I'm about to try and rustle people up for now that I finally decided on this date, which kept moving, um, 3 layers of cardboard. And then, as if you recall what Christine said, you wet them. You wet the cardboard, and then on goes the mulch. But we had only ever put down 1 layer of cardboard, thinking that was sufficient. But I did some research on what was the most effective way of getting rid of, your lawn or grass or everything. And they were recommending 3 layers of cardboard. And if you look at their property now, you'll see that what we put down as 1 layer has, as it should, happily biograded and added to the general soil. So that would be the
and
goal.
I,
And then if we get part of the way through it on September the 24th, first, we can also, whoever's available, and if I can rustle up some more for the what has now become the October Volunteer Day, which again proved extremely difficult to schedule. And I now, having looked at my little matrix here, which of course now I can't find.
Before we move the pollinator
Yeah.
meadow, I just want to say I've noticed that there's some new things, or that things that what's there and where it is does not necessarily line up with the chart. So if at some point somebody had the motivation and wanted to print out the chart and mark it up by hand, I'd be happy to update the official diagram on that.
Okay, smashing. And especially there's two things about growth happening down there that you're reminding me of. One is the plants have filled the space, their assigned space, and then are bursting to get out of that containment. But some have also started self-seeding outside of the containment. So yes, there needs to be, you're right. And the goal is for this to happen. This is what we want to happen, which is why we gave them so much space in the first place. So they'd have place to spare. But yes, thank you for that, Dean. Yeah. So over the next September and October sessions, trying to see what's actually there real and redo the plan, which has always been
I
a
know,
plan in motion.
I know when Gloria and I were planting the latest batch up there, aside from having, I can't think of one thing that wasn't on the diagram on the list to begin with, because it was something else we couldn't get, so I ordered something else.
Right.
But we also moved one of the patches of monkey flower to a different site. And then I
Yep.
realized on the diagram, in real life, we seem to have one more plot than shows on the diagram. So we do have to sort that out.
Yeah.
Great.
Um, and the
Yeah.
other
So it's
thing
an update.
is and the other thing is on the cardboard, I brought quite a bit up there because I had some in the cellar and from in the garage for a project that never happened. Who cares? Long story. But I brought it to the barn. There's more than enough there, I think, to do like a single layer on all the paths, maybe a single layer plus, but not for a triple layer. But I know in the past, Ray told us he can get us cardboard, and he got his cardboard for the first time around because he works for a company that manufactures cardboard boxes. So So we could ask Ray to get us some more cardboard.
Okay, okay. So part of this email, right, about the whole mowing situation, um, there could be a request for more cardboard.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Request to Ray. So this has to go out. Probably, I'll work on this probably on Friday, gang. Okay, this email to get this going. All right.
If you want, I can send
Um,
them something. I'm going to send out the message about chainsaw, which I'll include Ray on in case he's available. I can send another message at the same time just to Ray. I'll copy us all, but ask Ray if he can maybe get us some more cardboard.
all right. Well, okay, you do that then. All right. And I'll just do the mowing one. Okay, Jim?
Yeah.
Because if we're going to get it, we're going to need it fast. We're going to need it by the
We have
21st.
quite a bit there to get us started. I'm not sure of the
Yeah.
triple layer, if there's enough to do a triple layer.
Okay, well, again, it depends how many people are available on the 21st, and then we move on to the October. And I just would like to say, I know you guys do an amazing amount with the invasive species. You do an amazing amount with keeping the grassland trails open. The pollinator project is also, it has become a keystone part of conservation. In other words, it's the looking forward part. So I just want to say, I know we've been devoting a lot of time. Who would ever imagine that this would be a 2 year, such a very time consuming project? But we've done it now. We are very close to getting to the point when it will be self maintaining to a large degree, but we're not quite there yet. By next year, we will be. Apart from the pussy willows, which we will obviously be examining in great detail in the spring to find out if we can work out what sex they are. I'll move on from that. All right. So, how are we doing? 40. We have 10 minutes. Okay, before we become. I Let me go back to the agenda. Okay, I've mentioned in my discussion document where the loose drive is now very much in evidence at the foot of the embankment. Now, this I would suggest is the perfect reason we do need to again have another beetle order. We were deciding should we or shan't we, and I remember Dean talking a lot about this. So I'm saying yes, we definitely should, and I will confirm that with the Conservation Commission and place the order. And rather than just putting everything in that one spot, let's do a little bit more around that. You can see it. We can't get in at it, but we can get. It's all along the sides. It's always been along the sides, but there's been a lot of it this year. So I'm just saying we will, unless you think we shouldn't, I'm proposing that we confirm another order of the beetles for next May installation in that area. Yes, moving on. Okay. I realized I forgot. I or did I not send you the Path to Clamshell Pond little mini brochure that Christine and I worked on? It was done to be ready for Old Home Day, and as we know, the event didn't happen, but a tornado did. So we do have it, and then I can't remember if I sent it to you. Is anyone familiar with this?
I've obviously seen it, so I don't know what everybody else has seen.
No, okay. I don't think okay, so I need to send you that. I sent it to the Conservation Commission for their meeting that also didn't happen. So I'll make sure to forward that to you for, again, your eagle eyes and any suggestions, right? Proofers. Because we had to do it fast, Christine and I, because of that, the early September days. Quite how to distribute. Yes,
Gloria,
yes, Dean.
it's in the Conservation Commission packet that you sent out to us. It's called, it's, wait, it's, there's the brochure. So you sent to us you sent out the Rauscher Farm agenda, the minutes from July, Path to Clamshell Pond info brochure,
Okay.
and the RFMSC report for commission meeting.
Okay.
Let me see.
Okay. So that would have been in time for their meeting. I try and always remember to do you, and occasionally I have been known to forget. Okay,
Well,
but if you've
you
already,
sent us the Rauscher Farm brochure. Is that what you're referring to? Oh,
no,
yeah,
I'm,
at the Clamshell Pond. Yep, yep.
yeah,
So we have it.
you got it. Okay. So I'm asking you all to look at it, if you would, eagle eyes, because we can now make sure we've captured everything. It's pretty tight on space, but you'll see. Um, and we are almost completely out of the very, very, very outdated Rauscher Farm brochures. But Christine had already come up with a design and a layout and stuff, and now it's up to her and me to make it to basically prune the words and then run it by you. Okay, that one. So that really is, it is in the works, but everything, but as it wasn't a priority, the other one was. Anyway, moving along here, Dave. Okay, we still got 8 minutes with Dave. So that brochure, and then we see what happens about the 100,000 K that's needed for the project. We've talked about that in some detail, but that will come up again in the next couple of meetings.
I'm thinking you might want to put a link for fundraising and then note that it's tax deductible, charitable contribution.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, that's a very good point. Thank you, Dean. Okay. And that's true for the town and CGCT. Okay.
Oh, it says tax deductible contribution up on the right. It doesn't, I was looking down at the yeah, the dedicated Rauscher Farm Fund, right, is okay. It does say it up on the right. It doesn't say it down on the bottom where it says your donation. It just, you might say your tax deductible, but I don't need to wordsmith that now.
Yeah,
I'll
but we
let.
will wordsmith it. Yeah, we do need to put it in. Okay. So as you see in the agenda, that the volunteer pollinator nursery was on Saturday, the September the 20th when I wrote the agenda. But now it is on the 21st. We just talked about that date, so we don't need to pause over that. Okay, there is on the 20th, however, the potluck lunch at the Beals reservation, which is where I will now be given the willow, the prairie willow and the pussy willow. And I know that Alan is interested in that. So on the Saturday, I will go to that pot lunch. I'll see if Alan is available to go to it because he was interested in seeing the Beals site. He had asked me. And anyone else who wants to go is obviously welcome to come. That's run by Freddie Gillespie and Gianna Carlos. Okay. So that's that. All right. I'm following the agenda. Lots of communication stuff will be going out in the next 7, 8 days, right? E-newsletters, there's a pumping, have to pump up the final Nature's Imagination because that has to get rolling again. The Rauscher Farm fun facts. So there's a lot of stuff going to be coming out, right? I also, in terms of the volunteer, just want to go back. I haven't heard from the schools, which makes me think if they were going to do this, I would have heard. So now, since I haven't heard, now I will follow up with the head of the science, Sam Road, at the high school. They've been back a couple of weeks now, and obviously I couldn't bug them until they had, got settled in. So, and now I will say, are you or are you not interested in a pollinator project at the high school? So that's just a follow-up. Okay, yeah, communication. You all did brilliantly with your proofing. Yeah, and you caught that one, the spelling. Very good, gang. On the big barn signage. And as we've previously discussed, and the other signs that are looking somewhat forlorn, they can be flipped because they were double-sided deliberately to deal with UV fading. But as Jim has pointed out to me quite firmly, there's so much to do between now and the year end that can be done in the spring. So yes, so that will go into the spring agenda. All right. And I just said lots of stuff. The monthly fun facts will be based on plants that have been flowering, very recently. Joe Pyeweed, good. Purple loosestrife, bad. And I have images of both those to go out as the Rauscher Farm fun facts. And I've talked about the brochure. Okay, now, I found one of those electric boxes in town, unpainted. Right? I suddenly saw it the other day. So I'm going to go and take a picture of it. You know how all of this publicity is appearing on these electrical boxes by where the lights change, right? Alan had suggested the building on the corner of High Street and Water. That's a bit tricky because if the town decides to knock it down, which they may, because the town now owns it and have an extra parking space, then it's gone. But there is an unpainted electrical box on the left-hand side of the road going towards Hannaford's on Main Street. Okay, so I'm going to take a picture of that, and then I'm going to, with that picture, find out how the other images got on the other electric boxes and who gave the permission and was there a budget to do it, etc. If that is worth pursuing, which I believe it is, at least until somebody or more than one person says no to us, I'm thinking that it would be the iconic image of the barn on the silo as an image. What do you guys think? Because once I start,
Yeah, that sounds great to me.
As long as it's not from an old photograph that has the silo covered with bittersweet.
I can't remember if it is or it isn't. It's the
Well,
original
Well,
one
we
that
should edit it,
Heidi
right?
took it. Heidi took
And
it.
I've got hundreds of pictures of the barn and silo. So you're talking about that one of Heidi's. Yes, that would work. Yeah.
But
Are you
because that
talking about
has,
an image being painted on by an artist or
yes,
what's
yes. I mean, I know
Somebody
that
somewhere.
Cheryl Hughes, who now is a snowbird, but had the Celtic shop in the high street, and also now has retired from being a retail entrepreneur and mainly does painting because she did all these painting things. And she offered to do a painting night for Rauscher Farm as a fundraiser, and then I was told I couldn't bill it because the town can't fundraise. Anyway, apart from that, my strategy on our behalf would be with this photograph with nothing on it, but here's the box. How did the other boxes, how was that done? And who painted them? And what about Cheryl?
is that
The
something
icon.
Phil Duffy would know?
Hmm?
Is that something Phil Duffy would
Well,
know?
I am going to start with Phil, but he also has an assistant, part-time assistant. She might be the one who might know, or Discover Clinton might be the people who know. But yes, I will start with Phil Duffy. But rather than just starting saying with words, I wanted an image to say, look at this. This is one of the very few not painted. They're all over town. They're all painted. We want this for Rauscher Farm.
Hey, I have
Does
to
that
drop
meet
off,
your...
Carl.
Okay.
Hey, Dave.
All
Bye,
right.
Dave.
See ya.
Yes.
Dave, does that
You
meet your
too.
Bye.
approval?
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
It
All right.
absolutely
Bye.
does. Yes. That sounds wonderful.
All right. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, take care, Dave.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Too.
All
Bye-bye.
right. So right now, we have to now close the meeting. I will just make some
Because
final,
even though we're not voting on anything, we have to close the meeting because we don't have a
apparently,
quorum.
yes, even if we're just talking amongst ourselves of matters that are on the agenda. Well, we can talk among ourselves when I stop the meeting, but if I continue to step us through the posted agenda, we are no longer observing the open meeting law, even
If
though
we
we
want
are
to have
not.
just if we want to just check in with each other how we're doing, we can do that because it's no longer the meeting and we're not talking about Rauscher Farm business, right?
Yeah, so yeah, well, yes, we can always check in privately about how we're all doing. But I now to officially, and I don't have, now Dave's gone, uh, I am simply going to close the meeting at 6:52. Um, actually, no, we can't. I can't even have a motion. I'm just going to close the meeting, everyone, at 6:52. And we can't have a motion and a roll call of that motion because Dave's gone. Okay, so let me now officially stop the recording. Okay, more, come here. Okay.